This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about
comic books, costumes, facts,
Boots!
and other stuff.
In this week's issue, The Fantastic Four.
Welcome into Bros, Foes, and Heroes. I'm Zach, joined as always by the marvelous one, Mr. Mike.
Yeah, I was laughing because we just talked about
And I still did it.
in a previous life. You were on with a bunch of radio guys, and they would say, "Welcome into,"
And we
and then
all-
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I still do some of that editing for those same guys, and every stinking one of them. Welcome into whatever.
And when you brought it up, I have done an intro to every single show like that.
Well, it's
So-
just no. I'm not
No, you're
on
fine.
you about it or anything. I'm just saying that it's funny to me because every time I hear them say it, I think about you, and I'm like, oh, they were all at the same place.
Yes,
yeah.
we're the welcoming gang.
Yeah, you're the welcome in game.
But this is Bros, Foes, and Heroes, and it's been a while. I've been very
It
busy.
has.
You've been very busy.
Well, you got sick. I think
Yeah.
I got sick. I think
Life
the
happens.
world got sick.
It's fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
somebody
it's
did.
fine. Sure.
But I have come to pick back up where we left off, where we were talking about kind of just Marvel in general, with Jack Kirby and Joe Simon,
Yeah, I
Stan
really
Lee,
enjoyed that. Yeah, that was fun.
and just kind of where we got to. And we've kind of gotten to the point now where, and I'm doing all this to kind of just give a Marvel backstory and eventually set us up to be able to talk about some other comics later down the road, because comics, just like any other art form, movies, music,
Yeah,
things like
yeah.
that, have things that reference previous, behind the scenes things that happened. And so once you know actually the story of Marvel Comics in a way, or just, some of these characters, it just kind of adds a different level to some of these stories.
Yeah.
Where we left off, and I'll just kind of give a brief catch-up point to get to where we are right now, is comics weren't doing great until the early 60s, where DC finally kind of started to get a bit of a sales boom when they revived the Justice League. Essentially, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, they're big heroes all on a team. And Martin Goodman, who was the owner of Marvel Comics at the time, came to
Famous
Stan
Martin
Lee.
Goodman.
Famous Martin
Yeah.
Goodman came to Stan Lee and told him, we need to do the same thing. Essentially, still that idea. We want a team of superheroes. What they were doing beforehand, as I read, and I brought with me just to show off some lovely artwork here later.
It's a beautiful book.
It is
Yeah.
a very beautiful book, but it's Kirby, King of Comics by Mark Evanier, who was actually worked with Kirby for a long time and then became his biographer.
Yeah.
But it is like a biography and just collection of fantastic art in there.
The thing I like about it is like all the old comics.
Oh.
They have really they've reproduced them to kind of glorious fashion. I mean,
Yes.
because they look beautiful.
Amazing. And the things, it's so great because it has a lot of the old just war comics and stuff that
Yeah.
he and Joe Simon did together.
Lots of Nazis.
But yeah, well, that's
Sure.
you know.
Stuntman. I like that one. What is
Yeah.
that?
Where was
Stuntman.
that one? Did I miss that? Oh, there's the Boy Explorers. It's just down there.
Boy Explorers. Sounds bad.
It does, but still.
What do you do? Explore boys.
Anyway, so essentially, what was happening at Marvel while the comics? I love that. That's what I wanted to
Foxhole.
get to.
Yeah,
as
that
you
was
can
cool.
see it with and without color, and just how
Yeah.
this is great for everybody listening on podcasts. So let's actually get back to what I
Well,
was
I
talking
used
about.
to be a huge fan of like Sergeant Rock stuff. I told you that before, and that very much is in that wheelhouse.
Yeah,
you
so
know,
we were just
Sergeant
looking
Rock
at some of the
stuff.
old war
Yeah,
stuff that's in
yeah.
there. But looking at like the late 50s, and so comics aren't doing great until Justice League in the early 60s. What Marvel was doing at the time was a lot of monster books. So think of if you're a fan of like King Kong or
Yeah,
Godzilla,
yeah,
like,
sure.
it's the terrible monster from space that's going to, come destroy the world, or
Yeah.
all these strange kind of tale.
Well,
things.
it goes in line with the movies that were being produced at that time. You know,
Exactly.
like Them and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Westerns were also
Yeah.
pretty big comic
Yeah.
book wise at the time. But
You know they're
when-
redoing Westworld again
They just did it,
as a movie this time.
but they just did
Isn't that
it.
weird? Yeah,
Something so soon.
redoing it again. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay. You could just take the
I
premise. and
get
just-
it.
You don't have to make it what? Like you could take
I
the same premise and just tweak stuff.
Absolutely get it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
Um,
make it like Samurai World or something like
yeah.
that. You know, I mean,
Just-
something cool.
Oh, I mean, well, Westworld there is kind of like a samurai.
I know.
world,
Yeah,
and-
in the later. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, so they're doing a lot of monster
Sorry.
books, and no, you're fine. And so that's what Jack Kirby and Stan Lee were doing a lot of work on was the Western books.
Yeah.
The monster books a lot mainly though,
Sure.
and you kind of see that in the first issue of Fantastic Four here when they were told, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you guys, we need to do something to match what they're doing with the Justice League." Which
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
what are we in October?
Yeah.
October. No, so next month's November.
Next month is November.
So
yeah. Almost every
62 years next month.
Good
I'm doing the
Lord.
math since this. Yeah. But you can see a lot of that monster kind of comic still in this first issue of Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about how they kind of came up with the story a little bit. Stan Lee went through and has like an outline of how he based characters off this person and that person. Jack Kirby tells the story of how he based it off of Challengers of the Unknown, which is a
Yeah.
comic he did with DC before.
Yeah.
Either way, wherever it's at, the two of them came together to produce what would essentially be the book that kicked off Marvel Comics as we know it. This is
Okay.
the start of the Marvel universe.
Okay.
Of where they gain popularity. Because from here, then you get eventually Incredible Hulk.
Right.
Then you get Thor. Then you get X-Men. Then you get Spider-Man. And it's all from the success of Fantastic Four.
Huh. I guess I
So-
never realized that was the first one.
Yeah. So, what better thing to finally cover since we've covered all of these other, Marvel stories throughout the year, but to cover the one that essentially started Marvel Comics in a way. Because from here also, they're able to bring back in other artists. That's where, Stan Lee is able to, granted, he was still working with people like Steve Ditko and Don Heck
Yeah.
and all these guys
Yeah.
that would go on to,
Steve Ditko.
would be
Well,
the
you talk
artist
about
for
a
the others.
prolific guy.
Yes, very much so. But this is where it all started, and I found a scan of one of the more original
Yeah.
comics there because you can kind of tell with the fading and stuff. But I wanted that.
The only thing
so it
that
looks.
confused me is it says featuring the Thing, Mr. Fantastic, Human Torch, Invisible Girl, but it says together for the first time in one mighty magazine. Did they have their own things?
No.
That's what I thought. Okay.
See, so a lot of it too is
That's a Stan Lee thing, though.
Yeah.
Like, fake it till you make it kind of thing.
So so that's what I wanted to show you in a sense, just to kind of get an idea.
Yeah, sure.
Because when I was flipping through, I read at least the part about the Fantastic Four in here to kind of know where we are. But in doing so, I came across, granted, this is for issue 20, and you can tell it's for a 12-cent fee instead of 10
Oh,
cents.
yeah, look at that.
But this is just a cover. In the Kirby King Comics book, there's a Fantastic Four cover for, I believe, issue 20
So I'm-
that they didn't use, though.
That's just
but
the
it shows
penciling,
you,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
it's Kirby's artwork, and it's gone as far as Stan Lee has filled in the cover art. But, like, that's what this would have looked like
That's really cool.
for this here.
Yeah.
So and when you talk about that being a Stan Lee thing, it for sure is, because he's
Yeah.
the one going in and writing
Right.
the bubbles there. Another thing, just because we've talked about it a little bit, there's got to be one, I should have looked a little bit better, to showcase it. You can see in some of Kirby's artwork here, we've talked about, I'll have to show you a picture later, of where, but he'll have, you see these margins over here?
Yeah, that's
He'll
all
have
dirty and
full-on
marked
notes
in and all that stuff.
just written
Yeah.
in of like dialogue ideas. So when he would turn these in, he would have it drawn, speech bubbles are empty,
Yeah.
he'd have it all laid out,
Yeah.
and he'd have his own dialogue suggestions over here.
That's cool.
So
I
But-
love that behind the scenes kind of stuff like that.
exactly.
That's just fantastic.
So I just loved looking and thinking of like, all right, for some reason they got there, then they scrapped it and went with whatever they did. But it just shows the planning process and all of this. I also loved how the things that they reused over again, they just
Yeah.
cut out and put in there.
Well, and that is still a thing that happens. Like when you go to these shows, the artists will have those pre-made covers already that say like the Hulk or whatever up top, and it looks like a comic book, but it's just blank. And so they'll sit there like at a con or something, and they'll sit there and just draw the cover and then you can buy that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what it looks like to me.
Oh,
It's just
for
a
sure.
blank cover that you just keep using.
No, I love just all the behind the scenes stuff and that. And that's kind of why I really love this book and wanted to bring it. Another thing that we'll get to later, just by covering Kirby,
Yeah.
and I just bring it up because they have it in here when they do it. Eventually, he goes to DC, and there's a lot of stuff that happens to get there.
Contention.
Yes,
Yeah.
but while he's there, one of the things, and we'll cover more once we get to it, is he would draw Superman. And DC was so worried that people would be freaked out by the way his Superman looked, that the artwork he would turn in, they would erase the face and make the in-house
Really?
artist redraw Superman's face.
Oh my gosh.
So see, there's Jack Kirby drawing Superman,
Yeah.
and there's what was printed.
Huh.
Every piece of artwork
He's
he
got
would turn in.
so much. It's so bigger brow.
Yeah.
Like he's got a 5 head there, not a 4 head.
Yeah, but it's like you can just tell in all of this, though, that his look,
But it is a Jack Kirby face. You
even
can tell. Yeah.
and even the swoop, he didn't
Yeah.
have the hair swoop that they
Yeah,
had,
yeah.
but they erased what he did and
Yeah.
would have
That's crazy.
I can't remember who it wasn't. I don't remember who the artist was at
Yeah.
the time. But redraw the face. Yeah. So
Wow.
enough of
What
that
is this
thing.
book called?
Kirby, King of Comics.
Oh, okay.
Let's go ahead and get into. I've said enough, but let's go ahead and get into the Fantastic Four at least. Number one, the one that kicked it off for Marvel Comics, probably characters you're familiar with. What we have here is a group of 4 people. Reed Richards, who is Mr. Fantastic and also the kind of leader of the group, if you will.
Head scientist.
Head scientist, Sue Storm,
Yep.
who is also Reed's fiance.
Yeah.
She is the Invisible
Oh,
Girl.
she was just a fiance at the time.
At least in this, she is.
Oh, okay. Great.
She is the Invisible Girl. Her little brother, Johnny Storm, who is the new Human Torch. We talked about this is
Yeah.
Bringing
I
the
remember
Human
that.
Torch
I
back
remember
then
that.
now.
Yeah.
and then last but not least, the Thing, who, funny enough, is very much supposedly supposed to be like Jack Kirby kind of found himself in the Thing drawing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I would think that the Thing would be more of a Stan Lee thing. It just kind of seems like.
it's just a big, they likened him just kind of to like a big tough guy who was, just felt like he had kind of been, I don't want to say wronged in a sense, but was just, super nice, super lovable in a way, but just kind of gruff exterior. There was a
That
lot
was
of
the
things.
one thing that, like, I hate the Fantastic Four movies, the 2 that they did. Or actually, they've done like 6 of them or whatever they've done.
Yeah.
And they're all awful.
Yeah.
But the first ones with
Michael Chiklis.
Michael Chiklis as the Thing, that was great casting.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
he was a good Thing.
He was a good
He's
thing.
got that tough guy,
He's a
New
good
York
Thing.
voice, Yeah.
And that's very much like if you hear Kirby talk, like that's very much
Yeah.
he's that. Yeah.
He sounds like a tough guy from the street,
Yeah,
played
yeah.
stickball, all
Exactly.
that stuff. Yeah,
well,
yeah,
I mean,
sure.
he's
Yeah.
got a cigar. That's how
Yeah,
he would
yeah.
just smoke cigars
Right.
while drawing all the time. And in doing all this, I came across some audio of actually where Stan Lee marched the Mary Marvel bullpen to a local recording studio, and they recorded like 5 minutes of them just talking and doing gags to
Oh
send
my
out
gosh.
to people who were members of the the Mighty Marvel Marching I don't remember. the
Yeah,
name of it.
whatever. Yeah.
Anyway, but it is like you can tell that it's jokes that probably Stan has written for everybody, and these are not actors just
Yeah,
saying them all.
yeah.
And it's great to hear. But
That's really cool.
yeah, I'll pull that up for you. when
Please
we're done
do, and enjoy it now. Okay, go.
here. Okay.
Yeah, you send it to me. I'll put it in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that
Um,
was great.
Yeah. It's going to be very awkward. The thing that is funny is that they make the joke. Ditko never wanted to be there. Ditko did not like having to deal with the bullpen. He wanted to just, from everything I've seen, kind of draw, turn it in, get my next work, go.
Sure.
And he was having a lot of problems with Stan of the direction of how he wanted Spider-Man and stuff to do that too. They were still doing very much where Steve would draw it all, kind of plot it all, And then all Stan would do is go back in and like fill out the dialogue. So
Yeah.
Ditko felt like it was his character and he was directing where to
Sure,
go. And
sure.
then Stan Lee would go in and rewrite dialogue to kind of make it different. So they were
I'm
butting heads
sure
over
that
stuff
that's
like
where
that.
a lot of that came from.
But
yeah.
there's the joke in there where they talk about, oh, where's Steve? And then it's silent for a bit. Oh, there he is out the window. Like they make jokes about him not being there and being quiet, but it's because Steve Ditko didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
He hated
Yeah, they just hated doing it. Yeah, I don't doubt that one bit.
All right. Well, actually, before we dive into the story then of Fantastic Four #1, I think this will be a perfect time for us to go ahead and take a break. And we're back.
Welcome.
No, I made sure not to say welcome on purpose. Anyway, we're back here.
I want you to understand something. I don't mind that. It's not like I'm certainly not making fun of it. It just intrigues me how, and I guess it's because you all worked together for a long time and you just
Maybe we
got
just
used
pick
to
up on
saying
things.
that. Yeah. It's just funny to me because I hear it every day now.
Yeah.
You know, like by several people.
That's funny. We're the welcome in gang.
Yeah.
That's too funny. All right. Well, welcome into Fantastic Four issue #1. We've talked about our main characters. We will kind of brush over some of this with a wider brush, but it's great to see just where everything started. Essentially, we get a open up of just a giant cloud kind of flare with the Fantastic Four spread across it, and a man who has shot the flare from the window as he hides in the shadows mysteriously.
Oh,
We don't know who he is.
Stanley.
But obviously, the people are going crazy thinking it might be an alien invasion. I also do love, and this is just personally, at the top of the very first page, they have the block here
Yeah.
with the little like silhouette pictures
It's
of our
circles
four
with
heroes.
their faces in it.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something
Very classic.
we are
Very
then
very Kirby.
very Kirby.
Yeah.
We are then see and introduced to Sue Storm, who sees the flare and realizes, I must go ahead and answer that flare, and she turns invisible
Okay.
to the point where the guest she was with doesn't know where she is. She's running through
Well, she's
the
invisible,
sidewalk. Yeah,
so it's tough to keep up with.
She's going through the sidewalk, like trying to get to hail a cab, and
Yeah.
she's bumping into people who are freaking out because they don't know why they're
They
being
don't see
bumped.
anything. Yeah.
She just hops in the car. The taxi driver's just driving, not knowing anybody's in there until he stops, and she gets out and tries to pay him money, and it freaks him out, and he drives away. So yeah,
The thing is, she knows she's doing this.
well, apparently not.
Huh. Okay.
We then go to a men's clothing store with this big kind of brute of a man in
Yeah.
a giant trench coat and hat.
Yeah.
And the store owner's telling him, I'm sorry, we don't have anything in your size. Like, there's nothing this big.
I really love that the hat, the glasses, and the trench coat stayed for the thing for so long.
Yes.
Like even when I was reading it when I was a teenager, like he still, if he wanted to disguise himself, that's what
the
he
hat.
did.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and they see the flare there, and he decides, I got to answer that. So he throws it off, and he scares the store owner because he's the thing, which
The
looks just like a
haberdasherer.
giant brick creature. He goes to try to make it through the
He's got
doorway.
some big underpants.
He does, just like the Incredible Hulk does. He goes and tries to make it through the doorway, but it's too narrow, so he kind of breaks through, not on purpose, but it just scares everybody.
Yeah, sure.
So the cops are there. They shoot at him.
Well, he's a giant man made of rocks.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
it should
they shoot at him. He's like,
scatter a crowd.
he was nervous. He missed me with his first shot. I better get out of here before he takes a second.
Sure.
And so he goes, lifts up a manhole, goes underneath into the, I guess, sewer
Yeah.
that's down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Rides the poop water to wherever he thinks he's good. And then he's just like, all right, here's good. And he hops up out of the street into the
Turds
way.
falling off of
yeah,
him and-
maybe.
yeah.
And he just kind of makes a hole for himself to pop up to where the flare was.
Right.
Then we meet Johnny. Johnny's just working on his hot rod with a buddy of his.
Yeah.
And Johnny sees the flame himself, and he
It
realizes
truly is a hot rod too.
It
Like,
is.
Yeah, it's like
And he's-
50s.
he sees 50s for sure, but he sees the flare and realizes, oh, the Human Torch is needed. He torches on and flies off towards where the flare is.
Is he the flame on guy? Isn't that what he says? Doesn't he say fling
I
on
think
every
so.
time?
He doesn't say it in here.
Yeah, okay.
I do love the way they drew the car melting as
Oh,
he
yeah.
flew. Like I just love like the wiggly and the
Yeah.
fire. Oh, it was just a great picture there.
I like how. Oh,
What?
sorry. I like how his friend. I always enjoy it when people respond with
an exclamation
punctuation.
point?
Yeah.
So the mayor calls the governor. The governor sends in the National Guard.
Okay.
Even I guess the Department of Defense.
Yeah.
This is 61. I don't know who it would be at this time. CIA, whoever is in charge,
yeah.
sends planes and stuff after the Human Torch.
Some guy in a dress.
He's trying to warn them, like, hey, don't get too close. I don't want to hurt you guys. And they don't listen. And he catches the planes on fire that are after him.
Well,
But
tried to tell you.
But they do make sure to say all the pilots are able to parachute to safety.
thank God.
Yeah. Then somebody, don't know who, sends a hunter missile after him. But not just a hunter missile with a, where was it at? Hold on. It also has a nuclear warhead on the tip of it
Oh,
too.
well, yeah. Okay.
Because that seems like smart thing to do is detonate a nuclear warhead over your city. But
What year is this?
61.
Wow. Okay.
We'll just wait. We're going to get to some other science stuff that'll
Well,
be like, oh.
I'm just saying. I mean, they knew. You know, it's not like this is the 40s.
Yeah,
Or
no,
what, you know,
like
yeah.
we saw, yeah.
Yeah. 60s. Everybody, is teaching kids to get under their desks and stuff. So
Exactly. So as the Human Torch is trying to escape this hunter missile, we see Stretchy Arms come and grab it and kind of fling the missile off into the water to explode harmlessly.
Was that the first name for Mr. Fantastic? Stretchy Arms?
Stretchy Arms,
Yeah.
yeah. Except it's not harmlessly because it probably detonates. It says that it detonates harmlessly, but there is nuclear fallout now all in that water.
Yeah. God bless the fish.
But he's also able to save Johnny, and now all four of them are together at Mr. Fantastic's house as he or Blair or
Fantastic Manor.
it's the Baxter buildings where they meet at now. I don't know what it's called back then.
Okay.
But they're all four together because he's the one who shot the flare. We are then now told their backstory
Wait,
of
Mr. Fantastic's the one that shot the flare?
to get them all to meet.
Oh, okay.
So we're then given the backstory of Fantastic Four, of how they became so fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, essentially,
Space.
Richard Reed is a scientist working on a rocket mission. They're trying to get to the moon, I believe. It's something out in space related.
Well, this is 61, so yeah. I mean,
I think it might just be space in general.
we haven't made it to the moon yet. Yeah, I don't think it's even been because Kennedy said it in what, like 65 or 66, something like that. And then we landed in 69.
Did you say six? He was dead in 63.
Oh, was he? Oh, so he must have said it. Oh, well, maybe this was right after he said it then.
Right? He didn't make it through one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So,
R.I.P.
but Reed is the scientist. Ben Grimm, who is the thing,
Yeah.
is our
Great name, by the way.
Yes, is
always been a great name.
our test pilot, and then Sue is Reed's fiance, and then Johnny, her brother. They decide it's not ready. Reed is like, we need to go ahead and do this to beat the commies, because it was the Cold War.
It was a Red Scare back then, right?
Yeah. And they talk, basically, Ben Grimm is always the guy of like, oh, you think I'm scared? All right, I'm going to do it. So that's why they're like, oh, you're just scared. He's like, no, I'll do it.
I'm not scared of anything.
So they sneak onto the base and they just launch themselves into space to beat the commies. While they're there,
They just launched themselves into space. Okay, great.
while they're there, they talk about they didn't know how their bodies would react to the cosmic rays. That is what changes them. While they're out in space, Johnny starts feeling like he's on fire.
Yeah.
Ben is too heavy. He can't kind of like lift himself up and he sinks to the ground. Sue turns invisible and they think that all, three of them are worse for wear as they've kind of crash landed back on Earth. And they see that Sue's invisible. I take that back. Sorry. Johnny feels like he's on fire. Ben's heavy, but they haven't made changes yet. Sue's the first one they see that actually, something's wrong. She changes invisible. Before we move on to the story, though, Mike, since I did grab the original scan, there's ads in here, and there's just something I didn't know existed that is kind of funny to me. And the headline is, will you work Saturday mornings for $5 to $20 extra?
Yeah, sure.
Dollars?
Sure, I will. I still will.
This spare time shoe business can make big money for you.
Spare time shoe business.
So it was a door-to-door shoe salesman.
Yeah. Look at that. Wow, those are some fine shoes.
I just didn't know that people would be like, hey, can I talk to you about Mason shoes?
I'd like to talk to you about your shoes.
See,
Is the man of the house home?
It's just like having an extra payday every week just for showing friends, relatives, and neighbors how they'll walk on air in Mason Comfort shoes. This is a kid.
Well, that's what I don't understand. Is like
Are
this
these
is.
kids gonna try to sell us shit?
Hey kids, how about a good MLM? Have you ever? You know those cleaning products that your mom uses?
Oh man. Anyway.
Wow.
They all-
Wingtips on Saturday morning. That's great.
Hey, Mrs. Johnson, can I talk to y'all about shoes?
Well, it's like the Fuller Brush man, right? But he's got a big case full of shoes.
Yeah, except what the knives?
Ginsu. Well, no, it was Cutco.
Cutco.
Cutco's still around, man.
really?
Those kids still get sucked into Cutco. Yeah, I had a girl that wanted to work here at one time, and she was like, "Well, I got this Cutco gig," and I was like, "Oh, okay, well, bye."
I knew a guy. I say recently, but I mean he's younger than me, so
Yeah.
it had to be. But work as a Kirby vacuum salesman,
Wow.
so that's still a thing.
Wow.
I don't know about
Wow.
post COVID, but they showed me like, hey, can I show you how well it vacuums your carpet?
Good Lord.
Remember when they'd have, and I'm sure they still do too, Pampered Chef parties?
Oh yeah.
They still.
Well,
do,
my
right?
mom was Avon, so we got all of that.
Yeah.
And then I think I remember my grandmother throwing a Tupperware party at one time. Yeah, and then what was the stuff that you put in your house? The like butterflies on the wall and shit.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm
was
talking
that called?
about?
Yeah.
It was like home accents or something like that, right?
Yes.
It was just this catalog that you order all that dumb shit out of, and everybody had those goddamn butterflies on
Those
their
were
wall.
the days, weren't they?
Oh no, they weren't.
Anyway, back to our story. Now that we're done shoe salesman, we do discover that the Ben has turned into the Thing,
Yeah.
and Mr. Fantastic,
And it's
can
just
stretch.
cosmic rays.
Just cosmic rays.
Okay.
the
And it's
body's
because we
reaction
didn't
to
know
that.
anything about space,
Exactly.
really.
So
yeah.
you could use that. The one thing I do like is they
That'd be tough to pull off these days.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So Ben gets mad at Reed, rightfully so, in a way, because he's like, you kind of did this to us, and
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about us needing to calm down, kind of thing.
Now I'm a
And
rock,
he,
see?
and he like scoops him up and
Yeah.
kind of like hugs him down. And in that time, as Johnny's getting a little bit excited, they find out that when he does is when he kind of flames on,
Yeah.
and so he kind of
There's something there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so he kind of flies around. He figures he can fly, and there's
Well,
a
sure.
part.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, there's a part where they say minutes later, Johnny Storm's flames subside as he landed, and the other three silently watch as the small fire he had started in the underbrush burns itself out. But that looks like a.
That looks like a big ass fire. Yeah.
Um,
That's like what Smokey warns us about.
yeah, for sure.
Not that Smokey.
the bear. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do love this quote in there though, where Reed's looking at him at the rest of the group, and he says, "Listen to me, all of you. That means you too, Ben. Together we have more power than any human has ever possessed." And Ben cuts him off and goes, "You don't have to make a speech, Big Shot. We understand. We've got to use that power to help mankind, right?" Like he's just like, "Don't even."
Yeah. I get
And it's
you.
a nice kind of,
sure. Sure. It's a come together moment. Yeah.
yeah,
it's a-
but yeah, it's like, hey,
solidified
we need
the
to, and he's
group.
like, yeah, and
Yeah.
he's like, no, we got you.
yeah.
So the one part I do like about that, of after it being so cool, is then he's like, right, Ben, and then they start sticking hands in, and he's like, I'm calling myself the Human Torch. Like it's only been
Yeah,
30
yeah,
seconds,
yeah,
and you have names
yeah,
already.
Sure.
But
It's not like this thing's gonna pass. I'm gonna be this forever.
yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna go see a doctor.
That's right. I'm not getting any better.
So we then get to the second part of our story, because our story in in issue 1 is told in 3 acts.
Okay.
So that is how they became the Fantastic Four. Flash forward back to now, while they're all meeting, trench coat, glasses, and hat
Yeah.
and sun.
Love it. Classic.
And they see that all of these.
This is also a Kirby thing where like the characters are just one solid color.
Well, he
you know
didn't do the color, but
Well, what I'm saying, there's no coloration to it.
so
you know?
this is
Like,
just. I think it's just because it's the 4 color of like. I don't know. I
don't
can't
know.
explain.
I don't know.
wasn't there
I
for the
feel like
meeting.
I've seen more of this where like the emphasis is put on one thing and everybody else is just kind of in the background.
So here's the thing: like the colors specifically, I feel awful. He's in the audio that we listened to earlier, and
Yeah.
I can't think of his name right now. But Marvel had like a colorist.
Okay.
Like what they would do was essentially be like, "Hey, what are the Fantastic Four colors going to be?" And he'd be like, "Well, I saw that Jack did this, this, and this, so I picked this blue with that blue." And like he would go in,
Oh, wow.
and that's what he did, and he purposely picked the colors for stuff. And he talked about how purples work for this, and like there's I can't
What a
remember
job.
what. Yeah, but so one guy is essentially responsible for the Marvel superheroes being all the colors they are now.
You think he got pissed when like the registration was off and the color would jump through the lines and things?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But
That was
all
the
of
bane of his
these
existence.
atomic plants around the world have just kind of been sucked into the earth. There's
That's a
just
problem.
giant holes.
That's an
Yeah.
issue. Yeah.
And so that's why they're together. We got to figure out what's going on. We're then taking to, it says, just to show where we're at kind of in history, we're taken to, halfway around the world in French Africa.
French Africa.
Yeah.
All right.
Which I believe it's French,
that-
just so.
Is that Ghana?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Okay.
Just so that Stan could write Sacre Bleu.
Uh,
I could be wrong, but he has that as a quote there. But we see another atomic plant just kind of sucked in,
Yeah.
and then a giant monster crawl out. And this is why I brought up the monster comics, because it is still very much,
yeah. It's very much a Godzilla kind of enemy.
but it's also in a way a moving forward story wise and and I'll get to that in a point. But so there is very much a lot of the just monster comic fingerprints all over this.
For a
'cause
mole monster, that's a pretty good looking mole monster.
that's not the mole monster.
Oh, sorry.
The mole man.
Oh, we're getting to a mole man.
The mole man.
That's not him?
No. You'll see
The
Mole
green
Man.
guy's not the mole man?
No, he's a monster.
Oh, okay.
See, there's a 3-headed monster.
Oh, yeah.
So
Hydra.
we then get to see where Reed simply tells the rest, or Mr. Fantastic tells the rest of the Fantastic Four that all the seismic activity, it seems to be connected, and there's a hot spot of where it's all kind of like, it pins all my red yarn kind of comes together on this one point,
Sure.
and it's Monster Isle.
Monster Isle.
Monster Island. Yeah, Monster
Okay.
Isle.
No, wait.
So,
Monster Island or Monster Isle?
Monster Isle, ISLE.
Okay,
But I
okay.
mean, technically, isn't it the same?
Okay. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it in that part of the King Kong thing too? Isn't there a Monster Island?
I don't know, but there is.
I mean, I know there's Skull Island.
maybe, but this is Monster Isle.
Okay. All right.
So
It's just adjacent to Monster
yeah,
Island.
So they land on Monster Isle where they come across monsters.
Huh? What do you
There's
know?
the
What a concept.
There's this 3-headed monster that Mr. Fantastic kind of flings off into the water,
Yeah.
and then he and Johnny fall into this pit.
Uh-huh.
And Mr. Fantastic is able to kind of spread himself out and use him as like a parachute.
I
to
have
help him
never
land.
liked heroes that can stretch
I haven't either. But
because inevitably you're going to get that panel where the guy turns into a freaking parachute.
yep.
And I think that's one of the goofiest things. Yeah. Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
I know Mole Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He was in my British Lit class.
So when they finally land, it's pitch black down there, and when they open, like he's trying to get out, Johnny, I say he, the Human Torch can feel like the room around them vibrating. It kind of
Yep,
makes him
sure.
a little nervous, and he kind of flames on a bit as light hits, and they pass out and they wake up in these giant blue goofy looking suits, but like
Yeah.
they can't really
Yeah.
see or do anything.
Well, they're kind of like those rabbit suits that they wear in clean rooms, but for some reason the face is open.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It is. And so they're like, oh, we can't see. Why can't we see? It's so blinding. And you just hear a voice say, the reason you can't see is you were blinded by the glare from the Valley of Diamonds.
Oh boy!
And look at all those diamonds.
Yeah, that is truly a valley of diamonds.
And as for me, I am the Mole Man.
I don't understand what purpose the glasses serve, but it's just
They-
a single slit.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, you just passed
I did.
and maybe we've done this before, but the Grit newspaper.
No, we haven't.
I think we've seen Grit before,
Maybe we have. I don't remember talking
but
about.
that was a door-to-door thing where kids would sell the newspaper, right? And it was a national.
America's greatest family newspaper.
Yeah. Did you know Grit still exists? It's still
Do
being
they
sold.
still make a paper?
Apparently they do.
Where do they sell? It's all online, isn't it?
America's Family Newspaper. In the early 90s, Grit Publishing and its newspaper were purchased by Stauffer Communications and eventually moved to Topeka, Kansas. Today, the Grit newspaper is published by Ogden Publications.
In Ogden, Kansas?
I don't know. Grit Commercial Printing was purchased by a local partnership and today is a family-owned and operated printing business located in Montoursville, Pennsylvania.
Oh, they moved.
Today,
states
Grit
again.
continues to build on and deliver the same quality and value to its customers and have come to expect for 100 years, specializing in the printing and mailing of catalogs, postcards, brochures, posters, annual reports, and magazines.
Nice.
Yeah, who knew? Our niche is helping metropolitan customers and local customers alike with a high-quality, low-cost, great service alternative.
Oh,
Well, thank you, Grit.
thanks, Grit. Let's go ahead with the third act of our
do
Fantastic
it.
Four story. So,
The Mole Man's
while
Secret.
while Johnny and Reed are stuck down in their Valley of Diamonds,
It's a bad place to be
It is.
stuck.
we see Sue and Ben together, but there's a monster creeping up behind Sue. Ben
Yeah.
turns into, well, he doesn't turn into, he's stuck as
Takes
the
his
thing,
coat
kind
off.
of.
Yeah.
Takes his coat off, makes light work of this monster, and they go to try and find Reed and Johnny.
Does the thing turn back to Ben?
Sometimes there's
Okay.
throughout the
But it's not as much as like the Hulk.
no,
Yeah.
it's more of like
Yeah.
it does for a little bit, and you think he has his humanity back
Yeah.
just for it to
Yeah.
fade away, and him
Gotcha.
feeling like I'm always going to be this
I
monster.
couldn't remember. Yeah.
Oh,
Couldn't
there
remember
is.
if he
I can't
turned back or
remember.
not.
It's which issue is it? One of the. I'll have to go and find it. There is one issue of where it's him. It's the thing on the cover, and it's raining on him, and you can tell he's just sad. And it's the thing. This man, this monster. Oh, it's a hell of a cover.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he.
They go, you know, for all the shit we give them for the goofiness and all that stuff. Marvel Comics did a really good job of like pathos, like
Yeah.
you know, this introspection kind of thing with all their characters.
Well, and a lot of it here is the guys that we're talking about and doing it.
Yeah,
It's the
sure.
Jack Kirby. It's the Stan Lee.
very talented
It's
guys.
the Steve Dick. Yeah.
Not
and it's
just
like you can-
pencilers and shit.
No, it's
you know.
not. And it's just like
Yeah.
with anything else. If you go back and you look at this, you can see a lot of the people themselves in these characters.
Yeah, I think they thought of these as actual like
Yes.
plays,
Very
and,
much.
and shows
Well-
or whatever. You know, they're in acts, like you say. I mean,
Very much so. There's another thing just
hey,
because.
what is her name? One with the giant hair.
Medusa.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. That's the Inhumans I was trying to think
There's
of.
my Silver Surfer.
Yeah. You like that little just sketch there?
Love some Silver Surfer.
I'll have to show it to you. It might be at the end.
Mobius
Just because
was
we're.
my favorite one, the one
really?
that Mobius did. Yeah.
Oh, that is good. It might be at the end here. I'll have to find it just because we're talking about the thing to show you all. I have this book here. Because Kirby, and why wouldn't you, would also sketch cards.
Oh yeah.
Here's a Happy Hanukkah card that he drew, that he signed, and it's the thing.
Ah.
Oh, it's great.
Wow, that is cool.
Yeah.
Huh,
So,
he's got a little yarmulke on.
yep. Because
Last night, and this is the truth. Last night, my buddy and I went to Dallas,
Uh-huh.
and we went to this food court and watched a Beastie Boys cover band. Right?
okay.
These guys have been
Oh, I have something about when you're done.
these guys have been doing this for 15 years. Number one.
Okay.
Number two, in the middle of it, I turned to my friend and I said, "This is the worst bar mitzvah I've ever been to." Right? And then at the very end, when the crowd starts letting out, there's a guy there that has a shirt on that says "Mazel Tov, MFers." Like, I was like, "See, I told you, it's the worst bar mitzvah ever." Yeah.
No, there was one I wanted to show real quick about. Oh, there it is without color. There we go. But
Oh
it's
yeah,
just,
yeah. Look at him just standing in the rain.
And it's great with color with the blues and the yellows.
I love how the rain is like. It's
Have you
almost
ever
going
seen
through him.
Stan without hair and without his
Oh wow,
mustache and stuff?
No, wow, he looks crazy. Looks like a dictator.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that's younger Stan. But
He looks much better with the mustache and all that stuff.
yeah. Well, he looks a lot younger, obviously. Or obviously, but a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said obviously.
Yeah, but he had that patented look. You know,
True.
and
Well,
it's-
he kind of had the toupee. What I was going to show you is.
did he have a toupee?
Yeah. You saw he was
Oh.
completely bald there.
Oh, he was the bald one.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize.
I'll go
that.
back.
I thought he
No.
was the other one with the
No,
crazy eyes.
No, that's Kirby.
Oh, okay.
But when we talk about them putting in it, Evan Air points out that this is the only cover that Jack Kirby did, and it's odd how
Fantastic
Mr.
Four wanted Dead or
Fantastic,
Alive.
yeah, but it's odd how Mr. Fantastic looks a lot like Jack Kirby himself, like when
Oh,
trying to
really?
be like he was like
Wow.
okay, and like
I
trying
was
to figure
thinking
out-
like there's an uncanny resemblance to that Superman you showed me earlier too.
there is a
like
lot
the
in there.
same face.
He has a lot with the faces. Yeah,
He has a style, you know.
Let me bring back. He also did that cover,
Oh,
the first Spider-Man one.
Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah. But where was that? Stan Lee.
Who did the Action Comics with Superman lifting up the car? That original.
The
one?
first one?
Yeah.
It's Simon and Schuster.
Simon and Schuster. Really?
Yeah.
Like the publishing? People?
No, it's Joel. It's I'm gonna get first names wrong. I'll look it up here in a second.
That's fine.
Joe
That's no big
Simon,
deal.
Joel Schuster. They're
Oh,
both
Joel.
J's.
Yeah, I think you're right with the Joel part.
Yeah, it's Simon and Schuster. I'll look it
Huh.
up. I always know. There you go. I had to find it again. There. Yeah, Stan's the bald one there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, now I see it. Huh. Yeah, Jack Kirby looks nuts.
Well,
He looks like Ricky Ricardo.
he's just having a fun time. He just has the dark eyes, the little yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Serial
sorry.
killer eyes.
Back to I love that man. Back
Kirby?
to yeah.
Yeah.
Back to the Fantastic Four though. Mole Man, we're seeing with Johnny and Reed, and he tells them essentially
Big ass slit glasses.
everybody was mean to me. Like they were
Yeah.
telling me, why would I go on a date with you? You're qualified, but you would scare the other
Well, you're a freaking
employees.
mole. Why do
Yeah, is that your face really? Are you wearing a mat? Like they're just all
Oh, wow.
assholes to him,
Yeesh.
right? So
Poor
he's
guy.
like, forget it. I've heard about this. There's got to be this, civilization in the middle that lives in the middle of the earth. I'm just
There's
gonna go
gotta be.
find it.
Sure.
He's like, I've heard about it. I'm gonna go find it,
Yeah.
and I'll just, roll over that. Then I'll live with those people.
Once
in
I
the
hit
process.
the Valley of Diamonds, I'll take a right and then
Yeah.
end
But
up in
then-
Albuquerque.
But then even on his travels, he's like, man, just me being alone is so much better than having to deal with those, people being mean to me.
I would imagine.
To where he finally comes across the entrance there on Monster Isle, where he's like, this is what I was looking for. And his excitement, it causes a bit of a earthquake, and it causes him to tumble down and hurt himself and ruin his vision while he lands.
His excitement causes an earthquake.
It says here, I soon saw where it led. It led to the land of my dreams. Down there below, I found it. It's Earth's center. And he goes, but in the dread silence of that huge cavern, the sudden shock of my loud outcry caused a violent avalanche. And when it was all over, I had
Oh.
somehow miraculously
That makes
survived
more
the
sense.
fall, but due to the impact of the crash, I had lost most of my sight. Yes, I had found the center of the earth, but I was stranded here like a human mole.
That's kind of like the Twilight Zone with
the
Burgess
books.
Meredith. Yeah.
Yes, that's one of my favorite
Yeah,
ones. And he
yeah.
breaks his
Yeah.
glasses.
Mhm.
Mole Man then goes to show him like, hey, I'm better than you guys too. Try to attack me. And he gives, I think, Reed a stick to like, they're going to, hit
Yeah.
sticks at each other.
Stick fight.
Yeah. Mole Man kind of bests him because he's done nothing but train himself like a bat and like a mole, like to
Well,
use.
sure. Yeah, he doesn't have to see him. Yeah, I'm sure Reed is basing everything on his sight.
Exactly. And so that's what they go of. Well, Sue and Ben finally arrive, and he throws off the jacket to go after Mole Man, and Johnny decides to just straight up burn through his suit. Don't know why I didn't think about that till a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
As the giant green monster from before appears to try to, get rid of them forever.
I would like for
So-
somebody to explain the Human Torch's suit to me at some time because I don't understand how. Like, I get that at some point he gets this flame retardant suit,
Yeah.
but how do his flames come through it? And it's still, you know what I mean?
I don't
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so all the monsters are starting to crawl out of this hole in the center of the layer that they're out. As the
You
Mole
know
Man
you've
is
effed
trying,
up if you got a big hole in the center of the earth
What?
and there's
and
monsters,
coming
crawling
out of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's very Cabin in the Woodsy.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, great movie.
And Mole Man is trying to just have his monsters take them all out, but instead Reed grabs Mole Man and they start running as the Human Torch kind of uses his flames to heat what they call the soft earth around it to create another kind of landslide
yeah.
and gets an avalanche going
Trying to fill the hole.
as they all kind of get out in time before the avalanche closes everything shut and traps all the monsters inside of Monster Isle.
Okay.
as they get on their plane and they kind of head back to Central City, which is where they're located right now.
Central City.
Yeah. And a job well done.
Beautiful this time
It
of
is
year.
also very fitting in a way for this to be the first kind of superhero comic like this, and then moving from the monster comics into superhero stuff for it to end with a
bunch of
here's a
monsters. Yeah,
landslide, y'all are done. And it very much does so, because from this point forward, you'll still see some creature stuff here and there, but it is
Mostly
Marvel
it's-
Comics is
yeah,
superheroes.
Yeah. Now you did pass another ad there where
sorry.
you can draw the character.
Oh,
one
the
more.
other one.
Yeah, you can draw the guy and send it in, and they'll tell you how talented you are.
Yeah.
I did that one time.
Oh, yeah?
Not
How-
that guy. I think it was a bear or
Were you
something.
talented?
I don't think I ever got an answer.
Oh. Well, that's
Yeah.
kind of a bummer.
It used to be like there was a pirate and a bear.
I remember the pirate one.
Yeah. There were several, like 3 different things you could draw. You know, pick the one you want to draw it, send it in to us. It was basically just a front for some, art school.
Yeah.
You know,
And
they
that's what
wanted to
contest
get you-
prize, $495 scholarship in
Yeah.
commercial art.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, whatever.
then
wonder
we
if
have
anybody
learned
actually-
radio, television, electronics.
I wonder if anybody actually got like a good job out of doing that, like drawing the head and sending.
Here's
it in.
another one. If you know just 20 people,
Oh
you
my
can make
God,
at least
the
50.
MLMs.
It's selling Christmas cards.
Yeah. Okay, so I did that at one time
You sold
as a kid.
Christmas
Yeah,
cards?
Yeah, Christmas cards and wrapping paper.
There's another drawing skull in the
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, well,
There you go. That is Fantastic Four, though.
that is super cool though. Like it's cool to see the origins of this kind of stuff, and how you don't need super detailed drawings to make them effective.
No.
Because I wouldn't say that Jack Kirby's stuff is super detailed.
Some of his stuff can be.
Really?
This stuff is not. Here's, it all depends. Once he gets into space,
The
my
thing
goodness.
would be hard to draw.
Oh, yeah. Well, just
All
the...
freaking rocks.
But I don't know if we've talked about it before. It might have this in here. You're familiar with the movie Argo, aren't you?
I am.
I'm sure we've probably talked about this. So you know that when they went over there, they made up the movie they were filming,
Right.
and that the art that they used was instead for a theme park they were going to build.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all the statue ideas, stuff like that came from. Was some kind of like Six Flags-esque
Right.
theme park based off sci-fi books that they were going to do somewhere in California. The art that they used, that they showed those people of like, hey, this is what
Yeah.
we're using, that the convincing like prop pieces and
Right,
stuff
right,
like
right,
that,
right.
it was concept art drawn by Jack Kirby for
wow.
for the theme park.
Oh wow.
So I'm trying to find
That's
something
kinda
a
cool.
little more. Yeah, once we get to
Well, did he was the first one to draw Silver Surfer and Galactus?
Mhm.
Oh,
Those
wow.
are Kirby's.
did not know
I'm
that.
trying to. Once we get to
That lady didn't have a shirt on.
Big Barda, yeah. Once we get to the space
Big
stuff,
Barda, is she the one that the guy was trying to get to cheat with Superman?
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah. Okay.
that's a Kirby creation
Yeah,
too.
wow.
Him and Mr. Miracle. We're getting to Mr. Miracle.
Oh, Mr.
We've
Miracle.
seen this
Yeah.
before. I don't know if you remember this from. Do you remember us going over Commandy?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
So-
yeah, it's a kid in a raft, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's Commandy.
Commandy.
Oh man.
Goofy stuff.
Yeah.
The Eternals.
Yeah. There's Eternals.
Wow, that's pretty detailed.
Yeah. This is the stuff I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
Once he gets to the space stuff.
Yeah, I can see that.
Devil Dinosaur. Where is this at?
Let's see, even you go back a couple of pages there, that pencil drawing. Keep going. Yeah, that. What does that say?
Crusher.
Crusher. You see, it's not super detailed, but you get everything you need out of it.
Yeah,
you know,
for
I
sure.
mean, it's
Well, you know what
gorgeous.
else? I think we've talked about it.
Oh,
those
shoot.
pieces is what I'm talking
yeah.
about.
That's the classic,
Yeah.
space war Marvel.
He has
thing.
tons of
Yeah.
stuff like that, and that's what even that Odin one. Man, where are these? Of course, when you want to try to find them, you can't. Anyway, but
I
yeah,
get it. Yeah,
the bigger space ones where he's like that. You brought up. Dang it, you said something else, and I forgot what it was going to be. Anyway,
All right.
there we go.
Sure, I'll bring it up again.
I'm sure. So what we'll
I'm
do?
sure.
I don't know. I
Yeah, you
went
just
with
talk
it.
all the time. Shut up.
No, I do.
Yeah.
So what we'll get into then next week is we'll get back into the story behind things.
Yeah, that's
from
great.
here, I want to look at how we get to, because eventually we're going to get to Mr. Miracle. The current Mr. Miracle with Tom King and Mitch Gerards, which I'm looking forward to covering. Or I say current, it's from 2017. But there's so much kind of in there of the backstory, and it's just an interesting backstory in its way. But I think we'll talk about what led to Jack Kirby leaving Marvel and the tension there more, because it is a lot over just the credit. When you turn in something, or at least in Kirby's opinion, when he would turn in something that he felt he had drawn and he had plotted and he had paced, and he even had written like dialogue suggestions in the margins there and turned it in.
Yeah.
And all Stan was doing was writing the dialogue, or even he felt probably just copying the dialogue that he had there and being called a writer and getting the pay for writer while Kirby wasn't. It created a lot of hostility amongst things there.
Just think how closely these guys had to work together all the time too, you know.
Well, it's just like any other relationship. That's the thing that you look at it here. And it's not like me in doing all this as I'm trying to paint Stan Lee as a bad guy, because I don't think he was. He was just the way he was kind of treated at Marvel too there at times too. Just nobody was in the right. But it's just a very interesting story to look at.
Well, it's the same kind of story like if you go over to Disney and you talk about their original artists and all that stuff.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot of that stuff.
Don Bluth, all that stuff,
But it's just very interesting to cover. So we'll look at that, and then also taking Kirby to DC, where when he gets to DC, he takes actual shots at Stan in Mr. Miracle itself. So there'll be some things we get to before we kind of just cover the end of his career. And by the 80s, he's out of comics completely. He's doing animation. That's what Jack Kirby did up until he died. Was you remember we've talked about Thundar, or the Barbarian? What was it? What
did he
called?
Thundar?
He did character design and stuff like that. Centurion, like all the Hanna-Barbera stuff in the 80s and things like that.
Did Thundar.
He did. Yeah,
Thundar,
he did character design.
The Barbarian.
He did character design and
his
stuff like that.
What they call him? Akla the Mook.
Is that the one?
Was his sidekick
the
like
cat thing?
His hairy sidekick?
What were the glowy two? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. There was a barbarian girl that carried a big axe or something. Or
a lot of when Cartoon
I watched
Network,
all of that Thundar though.
When Cartoon Network first kicked off in the 90s, when I was a kid and watched it, that's what they had a lot of, was like the 80s Hanna-Barbera stuff. So I'd watch that.
Some of that's really garbage.
Oh, it is. Yeah. And even some of the older stuff that was still in there, like the Space Ghost, the original Space Ghost, things like that. But
Space Ghost.
Which Alex Toth, another fantastic artist with that stuff too. But,
hey, if anybody's interested in making an extra $5 to $20 on Saturday mornings, write to us, because Mr. Ned Mason is looking for you to send you a free selling outfit. You don't have to invest a cent.
Not a cent?
Not a cent.
They're just going to send me shoes for free?
Well, they're going to send you shoes, but
not for free?
Well, the problem is, like, some of these shoes, they already come with feet in them.
Oh.
That's a problem.
How do you get them without feet,
though? You got to pay a little extra.
How much extra?
I don't know. And then the guy on the back is Mr. Albert Dorn. Oh. He is. It says up here he's probably the greatest moneymaker in history of commercial art.
Not for sure, though.
Probably. It says that way they're covering their bases.
We think he maybe is, but we don't know for sure. So sure.
Well, he's looking for people. He's looking for people who love to draw, or who like to draw. He's going to turn you into love to draw.
He just wants Okay.
At this time, 1961, these are America's 12 most famous artists.
Okay.
It has a list here. Peter Hellick.
Who's
don't know.
that? Okay.
Don't know. George Gibbs. Don't know. Stephen Donahoe.
Excuse you?
Dohano? I don't know.
Donahue?
No. Okay. Al Parker. Jen Whitcomb. Fred Ludekins. Ben Stahl. Which I feel like I've heard that name before. Yeah. Robert Fawcett. Austin Briggs. Harold Von Schmidt. Albert, and then my favorite thing is it also has Norman Rockwell, and then the last name
Norman's 11. Man, I thought he was better than that.
The last name on the list of America's 12 most famous artists is Albert Dorn, the guy in the ad. Like, it's
so you know what that means?
Yeah,
is that they were like, if he would have been 11th, it would have been the top 11.
Sure.
If he were 14th,
well,
it would have
to
been
their
top
credit,
14.
I mean, they do have Norman Rockwell on top there.
They also
I saved that
don't
through
have it in any
Impact.
order, so you know he was probably number 12.
Sure. They're like,
Oh,
all right,
Rockwell was okay.
Albert, think of 11 artists, and then we'll put you at the end of the list.
Yeah. He was like, "How many people are better than you?"
This is probably not even a real guy. Like, he probably never even really existed. Some dude just made him
drew.
up. Yeah.
Made him
Albert Dorn. Yeah, that's it. Let's go with that.
I'm gonna Google this though. What if we
Albert
actually have...
Dorn. Well, he's looking for people who like to draw. Look at him. He looks like he's got some trauma on his face.
I think it's just the way he was.
Yeah. He's secretly the
dude.
thing.
Hold on. There he is.
Oh, look at Albert Dorn. Huh. Who knew?
Yeah.
That is not a great drawing on the wall either.
No.
That he's standing next to.
Well, that's why he's 12th.
He's one of the 12 greatest artists. Yeah.
I don't think that's a actual.
Right under Harold von Schmidt.
Oh wow. He only died. Wow.
He only died.
4 years later.
Really? Holy shit.
65.
He didn't find anybody who liked to draw. He died of sorrow. It was a broken heart.
That
Wow.
was wrong. Hold on.
No obligation. Simply mail coupon. It might be your first step to an exciting, well-paid career in art.
Hold
Nobody ever said.
In 64, it was endowed. I don't know what that means.
He was endowed
No.
in 64?
His-
Oh, God bless him. That's
His
great.
art, the Department of Art endowed professorship in drawing.
Okay. What does it mean?
I don't know.
The only endowed I know is not the one you're talking
here you
about.
go. Dorn was president of the United. Oh, in 1961,
Yeah.
he helped the famous photographer school and famous writer school, based on similar principles. All three schools were based in Westport, Connecticut. And by 1963, he boasted more than 50,000 students in the U.S. and 54
Holy
foreign countries
crap.
with a gross income of $10 million.
Holy shnikes. At the bottom of this, it says he is accredited by the Accrediting Commission of the National Home Study Council.
Okay.
That's a lot of
I
words that
will-
mean nothing.
Well, here I will say something though. It does say Dorn influenced the work of many artists, including John Buscema, and John Buscema is another classic comic book artist.
I know that name. Yeah.
So I mean, Avengers, Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
He did
That's
a
where
lot
I
of
know
stuff.
him from is Conan.
After
yeah.
Kirby, he did stuff on. I'm pretty sure he took over Fantastic Four. Like
Oh,
he's done
really?
a lot of stuff. Yeah,
You know, Albert Dorn is not surprised by the success of his students. It doesn't surprise him.
he's shocked though.
He says the art field is growing. We keep getting calls from all over the country asking us for practical, well-trained students who can step into full-time or part-time art jobs.
Ooh. Okay, hold on. I just came across a picture that
That's the
kinda
same thing as
scared me.
being like a barista.
I
It
don't
pays
know
the same.
why, and I know that's just me, but I think it's the eyebrows.
Oh yeah, no, those eyes are gross. That is those are the darkest eyes I've ever seen.
I just think it's the
That
they're
man's
very
seen some stuff.
bushy. Yeah.
Hey, I wanna pimp a movie real quick. Yeah, I don't like that. No, he's standing right next to us. He's sitting right next to his
Look
dog.
at the look on his face.
Yeah. He looks like
Sorry.
I've got a secret. All the peanut butter's gone.
What's the movie?
So I watched this movie the other night, and this has nothing to do with comics. But every once in a while, I come across something that sticks with me. The last one that stuck with me, as far as movies goes, was Blair Witch, and that was
The original
many
one?
years ago. Yeah, but that's
Uh-huh.
the last one that I can remember, like coming home and keeping my eyes open in the shower, because I'm afraid that something's gonna pop out of the dark at me.
Okay.
Right? So that kind of stuff stuck with me. And every once in a while, I get this fleeting, like, oh shit, I hope nothing's under the bed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think everybody does. They all have kind of those thoughts every once in a while.
Oh, yeah, for
Bump
sure.
in the night kind of
For
thing,
sure.
right? But normally I don't give a shit. I'm up at night a lot. I don't think about sounds and all that stuff. However, I watched this movie the other night. My wife was in the other room. She's going through her doctorate program, and so she does a lot of schoolwork and stuff. She was in there doing her schoolwork, and I watched a movie called Skinamarink.
Okay.
Skinamarink.
Is it gonna freak me out?
It's billed as a horror movie, and it is unlike anything I've ever seen. Every time I think that I've seen all of it and it's all rehashed and it's all, you know what I mean? Then something like this comes along, and I'm not saying it scared me, but I had to pause the movie like 3 times because I was getting creeped out. Like, I'm a 54-year-old man sitting in a well-lit living room watching this thing, and I'm like, "Ugh, that's."
I don't like that. So is it like gory? And
No,
like,
not at all. It's basically all from inside the mind of a 4-year-old kid and his sister, who are in this house with like no adults kind of thing, and ends up with like this entity talking to him. But here's the thing that's so odd about it: the way it's shot. Number one, everything's grainy. It has like a grainy filter over everything, right? So it's almost like you don't know if it's home movie footage or if it's in somebody's brain or something. I don't know. There is one comment made at the beginning of the movie where you're like, oh, well, maybe this is all in his head because of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
You never see any people really. The shots are like, oh, I'm going to shoot that corner of the room, and then I hear all the dialogue going on. Or then I'm going to shoot the floor over here, and you hear stuff going on. Or I'm going to shoot the floor here with all these Legos, and then one of them will move or something while stuff's going on. Never, well, there's 2 times you see somebody's face. And both times it's frightening.
Mm-hmm.
Every other time it's like you see the kid from the back, or you just see their feet, or you just see the couch they're sitting on, or the cartoon they're watching.
Is it just like a messed up face?
Something happens with the sister, and then if you put it all together, it's like, okay, and I don't normally like movies where I have to look it up at the end to see what the hell I just watched, you know?
Yeah.
But this one, for some reason, stuck with me, and my friend watched it, and he was like, that bullshit, or whatever, you know, but for me, it just hit the right way, and the sister ends up with no eyes and no mouth at one point. And then you see the mother and father, but you never see their face. Like they're sitting in the dark on the side of the bed. And then the father tells him to look under the bed. And so I'm like, oh shit, here it comes. You know, something's going to pop out at me. But then something else happens. And then the father's gone and just the mother's there. And then at the end, there's this face talking to him. And it's very grainy. And it's almost like, you know, that thing that humans have where we can see a face on things, like we can make up a face on a building or whatever, right? It feels like that. And the kid asks the thing its name several times, and it never tells him. And you're just left feeling like this poor kid. I don't know exactly what happened to this kid. The thing tells him to stick a knife in his eye at one time, and then that happens. It's a freaky ass movie that I've never seen anything like. So I'm just saying, if anybody's listening still and they give a shit about anything, watch this and you know, come to your own conclusion. But it is unlike anything you've ever seen.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good, bad, or indifferent. It's unlike anything.
All right.
Yeah.
I might have to give it a shot then.
Yeah, you should. Watch it with the lights on. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I don't watch anything with that. All right. Well, that's going to
Anyway,
do it
there
for
you
us.
go.
There you go.
Hey, comic books.
Hey, comic books, and might give you a movie review too.
Movie review. That's right.
Right in time for spooky season.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
There you go.
I'm going as a beat cop
Oh, really?
this year. No.
Do you have
I
a
don't know.
boombox with you?
I was trying to, yeah.
You could be a drop.
I'm the
drop a beat cop.
I'm
Boom.
dancing. Hey, by the way, those guys that were the Beastie Boys cover band last night, they're all like 60. I mean,
Well, the
had
remaining
to-
the remaining members
I
of
know.
the Beastie Boys
yeah.
are too.
But these guys, they all had these hats on. One of them said Mike D. One of them said
So you
Ad
knew who
Rock.
was supposed
so
to
you'd
be
know who
who.
was who. And then the weirdest part of this whole concert was
That it was a bar
I
mitzvah?
put concert in quotes, right? Because you're doing somebody else's shit. But the weirdest was when a big white guy came out and played Biz Markie. That was a little weird. I thought, you can't really do that. Yeah.
Did he just do a Biz Markie
Yo,
song?
you got what I need. All of that. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It was weird. It was like right in the middle of it. It was like, oh, here's a break. Here's a white guy singing Biz Markie. Yeah, it was weird. It's a very affluent part of Dallas that we were in. So like Yves Saint Laurent stores and Coach and those kind of things all around.
Gotcha.
Oh boy, there was like 1 million friggin' people there. It was crazy. Huh. Anyway, yeah, there you go.
All right. There you go.
My nights are full of excitement.
It sounds like it. All right, that does it for us this week. Thank you, as always, for taking the time out to listen. And until next week, stay safe, everybody.
Golly con.
Pros and heroes. Gonna tell you about pros and heroes. Gonna tell you about.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.